to say we will turn a defeat into a victory. We will turn a defeat into a victory. Many of you have stood by Rasmea since 2013 when she was charged with unlawful procurement of naturalization. What kind of a charge is that? And we know that the charge itself was designed to cover up the real reasons for the attack on Rasmea and the Palestinian and anti-war activists who were singled out beginning in 2010. Many of you have stood by her in court as her amazing lawyers have unveiled the political repression underlying the charges against her. You have stood by her as the government has attempted to blunt the spread of support for BDS and the increasing awareness of the apartheid character of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. You have stood by her as ever larger numbers of people have come to recognize the connections between our resistance to the occupation and our challenges to settler colonialism more broadly, including solidarity with the indigenous people of this region. And of course, we convene this evening here in Chicago on colonized land. And we acknowledge the kinship of our defense of Rasmea Odeh to the continued quest of the indigenous people for sovereignty and justice. We know that from behind prison walls, Mumia Abu Jamal stands in solidarity with Rasmea and with the struggles of the Palestinian people. This city, Chicago, has been the heart of organizing in support of Assata Shakur. And so it is fitting to acknowledge the parallels between the case of Assata Shakur and Rasmea Odeh. In both instances, fabricated charges of terrorism have been deployed in an attempt to dampen a growing movement for justice. Justice for Palestinians, justice for people of African descent, for indigenous people, for Latinx people. But let us not forget that it was racism that enabled his election. And one indication is the fact that it was the slavery era electoral college that enabled his election. And the persistence of racism today, anti-black racism, Islamophobia, anti-Latino racism, and the xenophobia that spurs on anti-immigrant policies and practices. This is a pivotal era. A pivotal world historical era, I believe, during which racism is being exposed and confronted all over the world, whether in Europe, and especially anti-Muslim racism in France, whether in Brazil and Colombia, where African-descended people, often in alliances with indigenous people, are leading social movements that call for racial and gender and economic equality, of the way Israel likes to represent itself as the paragon of democracy in the region. And specifically, the evidence it presents, the evidence being that it is a haven for LGBTQ communities. But Israel does not say that it is welcoming to queer Palestinians who call for justice for their people, even as they recognize how important it is to challenge homophobia and transphobia within the struggle. Likewise, it is counterproductive to assume that it is possible to oppose transphobia only when it has become trendy to do so. That this is precisely the time to follow the example of Rasmea Odeh. This is precisely the time to intensify our fight back. We follow the example of Rasmea Odeh when we stand up and fight back, when we intensify our fight back. And I would like to say, Rasmea, thank you for your invaluable contributions. And we know that wherever you are, the struggle will continue. Rasmea, our love for you crosses borders and oceans. Our love for you will never be deterred by deportation. We will always stand together. We will always struggle together. And one day, we will rejoice together in a free Palestine. Thank you.